Oh, what's going on, you guys? How you doing? Hope everyone's been blessed. Hope you all are doing well. Haven't been on here for a while. What's going on, Ashley? Annie? What's up? So, you know, haven't been on here for a hot minute because I've been studying different things, trying to put things together on what's really going on here. And the problem is that if our timeline is wrong, then 99% of people are wrong on everything that there is to know. If you notice that the title of this is called the Scaligerian chronology. Who is Scaligerian? Um, why is it important to understand? Well, Josephus Justus Scaliger is the guy that gave us our timeline in which we live in around the into the 16th century AD. The problem is that if you believe in what he laid out in the 16th century AD, then you have to believe everything that is entailed within the Bible because everything is centered around the Scaligerian chronology. One of his cohorts that worked with him on it was known as Dionysius Petavius. He was a Jesuit. All right. Dionysius Petavius was a Jesuit, and he had affiliations with the Italian humanists of the Renaissance period of the 16th century. All right. So the problem is everyone wants to go based off of a history of 4 to 7,000 years with the Sumerian civilization, Egypt, Babylon. None of these things were discovered until the 1800s. Why is it that there's no talk about Sumeria in any Roman text whatsoever before the 1800s? All right. We have to look at these things. What I'm trying to tell you is this: history is a lie, and we're living in a complete deception of time. We're not even living 2,000 years after Jesus. We're probably living about 1,000 years. There's coins that you can look back on that they tried to say, like, some of them would say 1785, but in actuality, the one is an I because it's saying in the year of our Lord 785. Nothing is as it seems. All right. That's what I'm going to tell you guys. If you believe in the biblical scriptures, if you believe in the Bible, if you believe in the 66 books of the Bible, you have to accept the Scaligerian chronology. If you accept the Scaligerian Petavius chronology, then you're accepting a Jesuit pope and a Jesuit system of things. After Constantinople was taken over by the original Cathars and Muslims, and they kicked the Roman Catholic Church out. The Roman Catholic Church fled to Italy, and when they fled to Italy, something known as the Renaissance period started occurring. The Renaissance started, and during that time, and after, they started creating a certain history that surrounded the idea of the Jews being around a lot longer than what people realize. They started to sit there and say they came from a different homeland. They came from a different area. The truth is that no biblical manuscripts have been found. No Hebrew Old Testament manuscripts have been found before the 10th century AD. All right. So, what is this saying right here? What am I telling you? The Old Testament isn't as old as what we have been told. Matter of fact, the Roman deity known as Hove is another way to say Yahweh. All right. The Temple of Hove or Jupiter or um, basically this entire concept that centers around these different gods, they're all the same deity at the end of the day. They're all the same deity. They all have the same name and they all play off of each other. Palestina, the place known as Palestine, didn't get its name from a Middle Eastern attraction. The name Palestina comes from Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena was the goddess of Rome. All right. So Pallas Athena is Palestina. This is letting you know that the Middle East was Roman. All right. It was Rome. It was an invention of Rome. Just like in the 16th century, the invention of Rome spread out through what was known as the Scaligerian chronology to create civilizations like Sumeria, Egypt, Babylon, multiple other places. All right. Sword of truth. If you think this is false, you can come up here and we can talk about it. All right. Um, the thing is, I am still at the beginning of my studies on this. I've been looking into this radiocarbon dating, which is the main source of where the foundation of our dating comes from. Nothing can be dated perfectly and accurately. There was a representation of this. Actually, the founder of carbon dating, his name was Libby, and Professor Libby, he came across a mummy with a wrapping around it. Well, the mummy was carbon dated to actually live around 3500 BC, and the problem is that the wrapping was carbon dated to be 300 AD. So you have a mummy that's 3500 BC, the wrapping, which is 300 AD. The only explanation that they could come up with was the idea that um, the mummy was unwrapped and then a new wrapping was placed on the mummy. Okay. So they saw Palestine in Egyptian writing from 12,000 years ago. You're going to have to give me a source for that. That's all I'm going to say. All right. A lot of our understanding of the biblical scriptures is not as it seems. All right. It wasn't until the 10th century AD that the Hebrew language or Hebrew Old Testament was given. Modern Hebrew is only about 100 years old. Modern Hebrew is coming from the Arabic dialect of um, pretty much it's a language from a chain that goes back to Arabic. All right. In the Crusades and the time of the Russian hordes, um, you had Russian armor, and on it there was Arabic lettering. This Arabic lettering actually goes to show that Arabic and the people of this place are actually much more important than what we realize. Arab actually, or Arabic, comes from the word Rabbi, and Rabbi means the master or the teacher language. Okay. So, um, let's put it this way. Even Eurobia or Arabia actually is Europe. All right. Everything's backwards. The maps are off. If you look at any geographical map before 14, 1500, you're going to notice that east is west and west is east. All right. This is not conspiracy. You can go look it up. It's there. We just haven't been told it. All right. So I came on here just to tell you guys that nothing is as it seems. We literally live in the twilight zone. Um, even astrological alignments of solar eclipses and lunar eclipses and different things that are going on. Um, they can be dated. If you guys remember September 23rd, 2017, I think it was 9/23/2017, there was the astrological alignment of what they said was Revelation 12 and the alignment of the sun, moon, and the stars. They did this through a software system. We can do this going all the way back, all right? But we can only go so far back. And we know that even when um, let's say like books that were created, the Epic of Thucydides, and the Epic of Thucydides, with the wars that occur, there's certain solar eclipses and lunar eclipses that occur according to the book in like 431 AD. Different things going on. If you take the software and you go back to these certain times, there were no solar eclipses or lunar eclipses that were occurring. So either A, they weren't accurate in their understanding of solar and lunar eclipses, or B, it's a barefaced lie and they're trying to deceive the masses. Okay. So, carbon dating, coin dating, and dendrochronology shows us that we can only go so far back in time. All right. Everything else is a lie. It's a deception. There was there was a wipeout of the earth that ended up occurring or close to all of human civilization being destroyed around 535 AD. Okay. So, with the past was not accurate because they didn't have the whole picture. Um, Actually, one thing you need to understand is a lot of rewritten books of the past are written around 16, 1700s century, 16th, 17th century. The writings of Eusebius Caesarea, the early church father that was known as a chronologist, was not found until 1544. Okay. We have repeats on history. We have different things going on here. Either history repeats itself or we're being lied to, barefaced, and they made all this shit up. All right. So there's too much here that goes to show there's there's a gap within our time. All right. That's the one thing I could tell you guys. I just wanted to get on here. I wanted to talk to you guys for a couple of minutes. I'm in the middle of studying some things out right now. For any of you that don't know me, my name's Joshua. Here on Sons of God Ministries. Um, I've been on TikTok here for about 4 years now. Been doing these videos for quite some time, but the thing is that there's too much going on here that doesn't make sense. All right. Now, let's say that you wanted to accept the Bible for what it says, word for word, everything. You would have to accept a um, you would have to accept a doctrine known as preterism. If you accept all 66 books as they are laid out, from Genesis all the way to Revelation, from Jesus to Paul to James to John, you would have to accept it. Here's the thing, though. I don't accept all 66 books of the Bible. Half of the Bible in the Old Testament is about a deity known as Yahweh. Yahweh is Hove. Hove is also a Roman deity. It stems across all religions ultimately Yahweh and this Old Testament deity of wrath, vengeance, duality. Um, it's all about the worship of this deity. Okay. Now, Hove being Yahweh is Zeus. Zeus being Yahweh is Jupiter. Jupiter is Enki Iya. All right. It stems all the way across the religions. But the problem is these civilizations didn't exist in the first place. All right. So when we put all this together with dendrochronology, the study of tree rings, we can't even look past 600 to 700 years in history. With something called dependent and independent dating, we can take historical books like, let's say, the writings of Titus Livy, who was a Roman chronologer. He's the most well-known Roman chronologer. Says that the Roman foundation started in 753 BC, going onwards. The founders was Romulus and Remus. We can overlay this with a book in the supposed 4th century, and you can literally take these books and you can overlay them one on the other, and there's a chart of a spike graph, and if these spike graphs line up or they correlate, it's talking about the same events. So what I mean by this is like the war of Troy and the fall of Troy is actually a comparison of the of like the war that went on in Italy. Okay, so when we start to see this, we see how history overlaps with a set of statistical analysis. And when you start to do this, you start to realize it's too concise to be even a coincidence. For instance, I'm going to show you guys something. All right. I want you guys to see something here. Give me 1 minute. Maybe I can pull it up. Okay. Right here. This is only about 4 to 5 things that are going on here. But what this is on the left-hand side, this is the ancient Roman Empire. And then on the right side is the revived Roman Empire. Okay. Mind you, the ancient Roman Empire has the same amount of kings as the revived Roman Empire. The ancient Roman Empire has the same amount of years, same amount of understanding. It's just that it was shifted in time. So what happens is they take these rulers, these leaders, these wars, and they shift them in time and they copycat them to make it look like it's real. I'll give you an instance. All right. On the left-hand side, if you're reading, the first ruler of the ancient Roman Empire was Lucius Sulla. Lucius Sulla reigned for 5 years. Well, let's shift it about 330 years. We come into the revived Roman Empire. Who's the first ruler? Lucius Aurelian. Notice the similarity in names. Guess what? 5 years. Right after this first king, what happens? There was a strife in 78 to 77 BC, a 1 year strife. What happens when you go into the revived Roman Empire? Another strife. All right. Notice how they have similar same names. The events occur in the same order. What you are seeing here is a pattern. All right. So when we look at this, we can see how they shift history. They make it look real. Check this out. A strife of 72 to 71 BC. Go to the right. A strife of 282 to 284. 2 year strife. Check that out. What's happened? Pompey the Great. All right. 21 years. Diocletian the Great. 21 years. All right. Right after this, there's a joint rule of Pompey and Caesar, And then after that, on the right, there's a joint rule of Diocletian and Constantine, Florus, of 12 years. What we're seeing here, this isn't history. I don't think this is history repeating itself. I don't think this is a loop of time. I think what they did was around the 16th century, which is where our chronologists come from. Notice that the title of this video is called The Scaligerian Deception. In this, what they did was, yeah, these stripes sound like what I live through every couple of years. What happens is these it's almost like either you accept it as a loop or you accept it that they faked history. All right. Now, if they faked history, what ends up happening? You start to realize and understand that nothing's as it seems. And if they faked history, yes, exactly, Jen. They faked history. Okay. And if they faked history, okay, sirens equals AA Michael. Interesting. So if they faked history, then what you will see is that there's a certain pattern they do it in. So what has ended up happening? What's going on, Mr. Super Cool? How you doing? Yeah, I'm sitting outside right now at my apartment. So what happens is around the 16th, 17th century, Josephus Justus Scaliger and Petavius Dionysius Petavius, went ahead and they created the chronology in which we live in. Now, Dionysius Petavius was a Jesuit, all right? Just want you to think about that. Josephus, I want you to think about this name. Josephus Justus Scaliger. Notice the name Josephus Justus Scaliger. Josephus is the guy that portrayed the events of the Roman Jewish War and the antiquity of the Jews. He has a lot of correlations with the Apostle Paul, if you look at it. Justus, on the other hand, is James. James the Just was actually the one that led the church at Jerusalem according to early church history. So Josephus Justus Scaliger created the chronology in which we live in, and Dionysius Petavius created the chronology in which we live in. They were cohorts, one with the other, and matter of fact, they were, well, Dionysius was a Jesuit. Now, mind you, Dionysius, there were 3 Dionysius in history that were chronologists. All right? 3 Dionysius that were chronologists. All right? Thanks, Will. Appreciate that, brother. Give me a minute. I'll show you. I'm just trying to get you guys to think. I'm just trying to get you guys to think about this. All right? Okay. So, this right here, it always works in threes. It's interesting. It always works in threes. There's 3 fakes and then there's the real. Okay? So check this out though. All right? If you notice up at the top, I don't know if you can read it. There was a Dionysius that was a chronologist in 265 AD. All right? This guy supposedly he chronologized history, okay? As we have it. That's what they say. Then we skip about 200 to 300 years later. There's another chronologist in the 6th century that goes based off of something called the Pearl of the Easter Cycles by Dionysius, and he's another chronologist. Finally, the famous chronologist, Dionysius Petavius, the one that we go off of based on our history, based on our biblical text, based on the Sumerian civilizations, Egypt, Babylon, Acadia, Persia, all these things, okay? What ends up happening? He dedicated many of his years of his life to the calculations of the Easter cycle, and one of the creators of the consensual version of chronology. Notice something though. Notice how the first Dionysius in 265 AD, his name in origin is similar to the second and the third, but the second Dionysius, he actually was a part of the so-called Pearl of Easter Cycles by Dionysius. And then the third Dionysius, who was a chronologist, actually was a part of the calculations of the Easter cycle. So you have these last two Dionysies, they're pretty much the same people. Matter of fact, this Dionysius the Little Exiguus, in, I believe it's what is it? I think it's Latin. I'm pretty sure it's Latin. In Latin, Petavius is actually the root word for petite. It's talking about small or little. All right. So what we see here is we start to see a correlation with things. All right. Let me show you guys another one. All right. This right here, all right, is a comparison between the biblical kings of Israel and the Roman Empire during the 4th and 5th century. Same amount of kings, same routes of their reigns, all right, and same naming with some of them that comes across, all right. So what we begin to see here is that the time that the kings of Israel ended was the times that the Roman Empire ended. Coincidence or a faking of history? I want you guys to think about that, all right? There's too much here to turn a blind eye to. Let's put it that way. If we turn a blind eye to this, then we're going to have some serious issues. We have to look at these things. We have to investigate them. Exactly, Jen. Coincidence, right? Ain't no way it's a coincidence. All right. What's going on, I Am Time? How you doing, man? False prophet. Only if I believed in prophets. All right. So, like I was saying, the oldest Old Testament that we have in Hebrew comes from 10th century AD. All right. Um, Now, some of you out there might have heard of a man named Ammon Hillman, right? Yeah, exactly, Babaloo. The naysayers will say it is a coincidence. Absolutely. I appreciate that, Jen. Appreciate that. I'm still studying it out. I'm still looking over it. Okay. I'm still, you see, the problem is that the way we look at things for um just the way we're programmed and the way our mind works, we want to look at it through the chronology that we've been given. And I can tell you the entire chronology of the Bible in order. I can tell you chapter, verse. I can tell you exactly what happens within that chapter. All right. But I'm looking at it from a chronology point of view, from the Scaligerian point. Okay. The thing is, we have to separate ourselves from this. We have to look at this through a new view. And if we can look at this through a new view, we'll begin to see something very interesting here. Like, for instance, if you look at the first 11 chapters of Genesis, you have the Tower of Babel. And the Tower of Babel event, it was a dispersion from going from one language to multiple languages. I want to just make you guys just think about this, okay? If Hebrew comes from Arabic, and the modern Hebrew which we have, which was given by Eleazar ben Yehuda, is only from the 1900s, and he even admits that he used an Arabic dialect, and Arabic was the language of Europe and the known world of that time. Is it possible that what ended up happening was is that Arabic being the known language? But by the way, all Latin is Arabic backwards. I want to let you guys know that Arabic is Latin backwards. Okay, there's actually old letters that have actually been found, and the writing it's crazy. All right, what I would tell you, um, one thing I would tell you with this is that I believe the Tower of Babel ended up occurring when the Arabic dialect was actually translated into multiple languages. The root of the English language actually has roots that go back to Arabic. The roots of Hebrew go back to Arabic. The roots of the language of Wales goes back to Arabic. Okay? Old Latin is Etruscan, is Paleo Hebrew. Very interesting. So when we start to put this together, we start to realize the picture isn't as it seems. I'm still putting it together. I made up a chart today of a timeline of 4 different sections with parallel events that have occurred from the biblical timeline and from a different standpoint. The funny thing is that if you look in the medieval ages, a lot of the paintings that they do, like for the fall of Jericho, or the basically the captivity of the Maccabees, or the Maccabean Revolution with Antiochus Epiphanes IV, and all these things, they're always drawn in a medieval origin. Even the Tower of Babel is drawn in a medieval origin. Okay, so when we begin to look at the like I said, I'm trying to I'm trying to take all this stuff and put it in a digestible format. Even Mount Vesuvius is actually the true Mount Sinai. Um, Actually, we were told, according to our that this should raise some red flags right here for you guys. I'm just going to let you know this. We were told around 78 AD there was a volcano that occurred and went off called Mount Vesuvius, and it destroyed Pompeii. All right. So we were told about 2,000 years ago, Pompeii was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius. Why in the world was it that in the 15th century there were historians and writers that went into Pompeii and they said it was fully intact? Why in the world is it that when they went into Pompeii, they saw medieval artistry? They saw um, a painting of Solomon when he brings the 2 women before him with the baby and says to cut them in half, and whoever it belongs to. Well, the basically the way the story goes is that there were 2 women that came before King Solomon, and they had a child, and the 2 women said that it was their baby. Solomon said, well, you know what, instead of disputing about whose baby it is, cut the baby in half. The real mother came forward and she told the other one to take it, and that's how Solomon knew that that was the real mother, the one that basically said that I don't want my baby harmed. Well, there was a painting. The first painting that was found at Pompeii was actually found in this artistry work and stuff. So we have to really start to look at these things. In the Arabic Quran, it's actually said that Solomon controlled 72 jinn. All right. The 72 jinn that he controlled actually created places. You know what's really fascinating about this, and I find this to be very, very interesting. I'm not a Muslim by any stretch of the imagination, but if you look at the Arabic Quran, it warns you of some of these things that we're talking about. It warns you of a rewriting of history. Okay, it tells you of these very things. All right. So what would this go to show? I think there's some bigger stuff going on here. All right. So when we put all this together, maybe they have tried to disconnect the original the original believers in Jesus. Maybe they have tried to disconnect the Muslims or something of that origin because they don't want them to come together because they know that they'll catch on to the synagogue of Satan. Okay? Call me anti Semitic if you want. Go to Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, Revelation 3 9. They tell you their plans, okay? At the end of the day, they tell you exactly what they're going to do before they even do it. All right? It's about divide and conquer. Absolutely, Melanie. Absolutely. Yeah, the logo for Nike, Nike was actually a goddess of Rome, I believe it was. It's a goddess of Rome. A lot of the symbols that we have, um, it's crazy. It really is. Everything. So, oh, even in Washington D.C., they have symbols of Roman and Arabic writing. Okay. Yep. Yep. Goddess of victory. That's who Nike is. The goddess of victory. So, but guys, I just want to let you know. I wanted to get on here. I wanted to talk to you guys. Um, I just wanted to let you guys know this. Um, hi, you want to come up here? I'll bring you up here. Give me 1 minute.
Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
This is my backup account.
This is
Sorry about that.
Khalid. What the
Yeah,
heck, man? Just say it was Khalid and
uh,
the dude. So I
I
saw
know,
you.
man. I've been listening to you, and to be honest with you, I don't know. On some parallel world, we are actually finding exactly same things.
Are you
So you,
serious?
I am not kidding. I'll show you something, and I'll just leave you with that. Give me, if you allow me to have the screen.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I don't. I think you should be able to.
okay. So here, can you see the screen? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Well,
you
wait a
talked
minute.
you talked about Arabic, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So here's the Arabic numbers, okay? These were the Arabic numbers that became English numbers. And somehow around 16th century, they gave us some stupid numbers in Arabic that were not Arabic numbers. So this is how. So and they were in Spain in the Lucia, okay, this is the Arabic number. So zero has no angles, okay?
Hmm.
One has one angle right here. Okay. Two has two angles, one right here and one here. Three has three angles, one here, one here, and one here. Okay, three angles.
Hmm.
Four has four angles, one here, one here, one here on this side. Okay.
Hmm.
Five has five angles, one, two, three, four, five. Get it?
Yeah. Yeah. I see. It's a process that keeps on going.
Right. And
Six angles, seven angles,
six
eight.
has six, one, two, three, four, five. Oh, sorry. One here, two, and then four angles inside. So there's six angles. Seven has three plus four angles. So you have three like this. Same here, three, right?
Hmm.
And then eight has eight angles, and nine has nine angles. These
Wow.
were Arabic numbers that how somehow in 16th century they changed the Arabic. Well, they imported this numbers as a Latin. Well, I don't know how they became whatever Latin. Like you said, Latin is literally Arabic backwards.
Yeah, yeah, you've heard that before then.
Yes, so I, I actually found this also the same way. And the most amazing part is the dating system. They
Hmm.
took it from the Arabic, so they worked the dating system backwards. Europe didn't have a dating system, right?
Wow.
So that you would not find a single document before 16th or 15th century. I would say actually about 15th century, there weren't any documents that were dated in Europe. So when Muslims came in 10th century in Andalusia in Spain, they brought the Muslim dating system. So the 2,000-year-old dating system that you have is actually re-engineered backwards from the Arabic dating system.
Wow. Dude, so okay, do you remember when we talked, Khalid, about how Ahmed Osman said that Jesus came right after Moses? Like right after Moses, Jesus came. Basically, it wasn't 1500 years later. He is the Joshua that is spoken about in the Old Testament scriptures as Joshua. Well, I've come across some stuff, and I happen to believe that Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad all lived during the same time frame. All right. And what they have tried to do is they have tried to spread it out throughout time, basically saying that, oh, yeah, Moses lived 1500 years before Jesus, and then Muhammad lived what was it, like 1500 years after Jesus, I think it was. Well, what I have found is that I think Muhammad was actually a crusader that fought against the Roman Catholic Church, and his name was Mahomet, and he was a leader. All right, because what Arab or Arabic means is Rabbi, and it comes from the word great teacher. This is why it was the great language of that time. There's literally Russian armor with Arabic lettering across it.
I think you're talking about the golden hordes. You're talking about the
Yes,
so
the
you're talking
horse.
about that's Muhammad. That's these are the golden hordes from. So what happened? Tatar, Tatar like Genghis
Yep,
Khan.
yep.
So Genghis Khan basically ravaged Baghdad in 11, I think it was 11th or 12th century, right? And what when he did that, they basically had Baghdad under Tatars, and they went all the way to where the current day Palestine is, and that's where they got defeated. But then Tatars somehow accepted Islam, and then all Tatars became, Muslims, and that's where you get the Turkic people Turkic people. So the Turkic people then took the names, Muslim names. So Mahmed, so Muhammad then in the Turkic became Mahmed. Um, but I mean, it's very clear that we have a 6th century Quran from basically from Baghdad, which is around the same time you had the paper was invented. So we have a 6th century Quran, which is most likely the oldest surviving book, and and then that's how I guess that's how they were able to preserve the Quran because it was paper was basically, around 5th century you had paper, from China that started to become normal thing, right? And I think Muslims were writing Quran so often that they were able to preserve. By the way, that's what I was talking to somebody. Arabic actually is the oldest known language to survive in its actual form. 1500 years. There isn't a language in the world that is 1500 years old is spoken exactly the same way. So for example, if you look at English 1500 years ago, it's like a complete different language. It started to change around in the 10th century, 11th, 12th, 13th. There's a TikTok video where you can see how English sounded like, back then, and they'll go over different, how English sort of transformed from Viking language. It literally sounded like a Viking language in 10th century.
Well, even when we look at this, honestly, man, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't even so. This is something that was really interesting. That the name of this live is the Scaligerian Deception. Josie, these are the guys that gave us our chronology. All right, I think. Have you been here while I've been talking about this
No,
for the
that's
most
what I'm
part?
saying. As if on a parallel world, we are on the same thing because I've been looking at the chronology and I'm like, where the hell this is coming from? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yep.
Like cities, you have these city names, like you said, you talk about Pompeii, that was there, and then somehow all of a sudden becomes, old civilization. So I don't know. I'm on the same sort of thing, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. What's going on, Ibrahim? How you doing?
What's good, bro?
What's up, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
Not too bad. Have you been in here for a little bit, or you just
It's my
stepping
first
in the live?
time.
Huh?
My first time.
Okay, gotcha. Well, welcome, brother. So, Khalid, one thing I would say to you is this. All right, um, that I don't think history stems out as far as we think. I think everything has been made up throughout a lot of civilizations. Our history comes from a man named Josephus Justus Scaliger around the end of the 16th century. He's the one who gave us it. One of his cohorts was named Dionysius Batavius, and he was a Jesuit, and
Interesting.
he was actually along for the ride with it. Now, one thing that's fascinating to me, though, is that these men, I think it was Dionysius, said that Jesus he believed Jesus lived 550 years before him. So this would have meant that he believed that Jesus would have existed during the 11th or 12th century. Okay. Now, this is important to understand because there's a man with a biography named Nicetas Conianus. Um, he writes a book called Historia, and he talks about a man known as Andronicus Comnenus, who actually ruled the czars for 3 years. Um, at his birth, there was the Star of Bethlehem, and this is actually a real astrological alignment that occurred. You can pull it up on software. I forget the exact date. I think it was September 21st, 1152 AD. And exactly 33 years later, in 1185 AD, there was a solar eclipse, and this man was killed. What's fascinating about it, though, is that if we shift a little bit forward, a little bit, this is something that's always gotten me because the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition and all these things ended up occurring because the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians would not bow to the Roman Catholic Church under something called the Alhambra Decree. Okay? So the Alhambra Decree basically said convert or die. So what ends up happening is there's an inquisition that occurs. All right? There's a war that starts, a holy war. And it's the original Christians or the original followers of Jesus, which were Gnostic more in origin, and Muslims, and they fought the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh
So
my God. Do you know what you just told me? So I was in Andalusia, okay?
you were there?
I, I tell everybody that if you really want to understand history,
Uh-huh.
you have to go to Andalusia, Spain.
Yep.
That place has like like literally everything that has the Jewish origins, like old, Islamic, civilization and Christian mixed up in one place.
My friend, think about it. Alhambra, let's just think about it. Alhambra Take out the L. All L is etymology for the. Think about the word Hambra. You can rearrange it. It's Abraham.
Oh my God.
It's all attached, and it.
I'm actually going there again in July. I'm going there actually in July. And I have few places that I need to go check out. But there is a prediction. So they found there is a church right on top of the hills of Alhambra, and they found scrolls in there written by Christian
Yeah.
monks, and they said that the light would come back from the same place again
Oh, I'm
soon.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure because this place is actually
Yeah.
this is where I believe Abraham was actually from. You see, I don't believe the biblical narrative that's given to us. I believe Abraham actually, who was a Hebrew, which was an Iberian coming from the Iberian Peninsula. If you actually look at it, he actually rests under a terebinth tree. The Placentis or Placianus terebinthus is actually a tree that grows on the Mediterranean coast, specifically in the Iberian Peninsula of Spain. Okay. Now, what's important?
Him folk.
What's important to understand about that? This is where Andalusia is. This is around that area of Andalusia, Spain. This is where Alhambra is. Matter of fact, now we have a connection between this, and we have a connection with the Inquisition because the Sephardic Jews who created Talmud, Zohar, and they were cryptos in the Roman Catholic Church. They were all located within this place. And when they were kicked out, they fled to Italy. And then this is where the Renaissance period starts. And during the Renaissance, they faked history. They were Italian humanists. Italian humanists believe you are God. All right, a humanist is someone that believes you are God. They don't believe that God exists. You are God, pretty much. They rewrote history. This is what I believe.
While you're at it, check something else out. So if you look at Rosetta Stone, okay, if you look at Rosetta Stone, it has Greek on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually, you can take the Rosetta Stone actual Greek, the ancient Greek, and you can actually feed it to Google and translate it, right? Because Google is smart enough that it has the ancient Greek and then it has
Hi.
the new Greek, right? So now, bro, I was translating Rosetta Stone ancient Greek, and it was spitting out different stuff. Like it was more interesting stuff than the bullshit that these scholars gave you.
You know, you want to hear something
Hi.
real?
Hi. Are you a Muslim?
I am Muslim.
Ibn Abraham, go
Uh,
ahead and talk, my friend. What did you want to say? Did you want to say
yeah.
something?
I just wanted to ask him if he was a Muslim.
Yeah, if you can, Abraham, if you can mute, Abraham, I think there's a background noise from you. But I was blown away because I was reading. I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually, because I do understand some of the hieroglyphics. I'm not expert in it, and I was like trying to see what's in the Rosetta Stone. But I was able to find the Greek text of it. I say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try the Greek text and Greek old text. And then I saw the translation of it by the so-called scholars, scholarly translation. And
Yeah,
I said,
right.
I can take this Greek text and simply paste it in Google, Google, and it actually recognized the old Greek text. Bro, the
Oh,
translation was
yes.
completely coming out different.
Yes, yeah, it's the same way with the Gospels. I'm going to tell you something. In John chapter 5, verse 2, if you take the Codex Sinaiticus of the text and you punch it into a translator, it doesn't say Jesus is at the sheep gate of Bethesda in Jerusalem. Guess where it says he's at? He's he's near the Vaticanus, the Vatican.
Oh my God.
So what does this go to show us? If this is the case and this was written in the Codex Sinaiticus and it's completely different than what we've been told, the events have to be shifted 1,000 years forward. And if the events are shifted 1,000 years forward, this means they happened during the medieval times, which were known as the Dark Ages, which is where the Crusades occur, which is where the Sephardic Jews come from, which is where the Cathars are, the original Muslims, the Arabic Quran, and all of these things. And then things start to make sense because we just shifted everything. And now it doesn't sound like a bunch of bullshit that's centered around Scaligerian chronology. So we have a completely different story now, my friend, and I think we're on to something huge. I'm still in the midst of studying all this out.
Keep doing what you're doing. Stay alive. Don't die on us. And one last thing I want to tell you. I know after the last night debate, I kind of lost hope in the humanity, but every time I talk to you, I get my hope back in the humanity. So, hopefully we have more people like you who are searching for good knowledge, and it's out there. All you have to do is just find it.
Well, my friend, one thing I plan on doing once I get all this information together, I'm going to retranslate the Bible to put these real historical events in there. Because what it is it gave us pseudo history, I believe. And what we have to do is we have to figure out what is really going on within the event. For instance, all of the places where Moses was, it all of the places where Moses actually was, and the Israelites and all these people, and all of the locations and the naming of the locations can actually be traced back to origins within the geographical mapping system of Italy. So, uh, in the Bible, it says that the Promised Land was going to be a place where there was flowing milk, honey, and there were olives. All right. This is not me that says this. This is a lady named Golan from Scriptural Truth. She actually said this. She has an awesome video on YouTube called the geographical mapping system of everything that's going on. Scriptural Truth. Go look at her, you guys. She has awesome stuff. What I'm doing is I'm taking some of the stuff that she's saying and I'm shifting it forward and I'm looking at the chronology and I'm trying to tie it in a certain way. It takes a lot of research, absolutely, Renee. It does. I'm doing this full time pretty much at this point, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I got a fire in my belly
I want to show
with
you
all this.
something else before I go. So, and somebody can help me here. So you can go to artsandculture.google.com and search it. This, by the way, this Bible is the oldest Bible, and it's from the 10th century right here. This
Yep.
one.
What
And
what Bible is that?
this is called, this was in Sicily. It's called the Charles of Anno. I don't know. What is this called?
Anio Gospels? The Charles
Gospel.
of Anio Gospel. What?
This
Oh
is the
God.
oldest Bible that they found, and there isn't any Bible before this one.
You're about to make my work a lot more hectic now, Khalid. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. I gotta go look at this. The
Yeah, so
Charles
if you go to this
Anio.
website, by the way, this website has a legit everything that's actually old.
Mhm.
I know you talked about Codex Sinaiticus. It's actually a forgery and it's a copy of some Russian Bible. And I have a name of it. I found that Codex Sinaiticus is actually complete forgery. Nobody takes that, so I know you're on to something, but of course you can translate it. But this is the oldest one that I found.
The Charles of Anio Gospels.
Yeah,
I will
that
look
this
into
is.
that.
And if you go to this collection right here, you can actually find pretty much everything that you want. Or you can go to artsandculture.google.com and you can pull any Bible from any museum. Most of these old Bibles are sitting in the museums.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look at that. Guys, make sure to go follow Khalid. If you don't, his name's High on here. His profile. I don't know why the heck his name is High on here.
this is my second account, just like
Yeah, man. I was like, who the heck is this guy that wants to come up here named High? What type of name is that? But I'm glad you came up here, brother. I wanted to talk to you and everything. You texted me about a week and a half ago. I was sick as a dog and everything.
No, I was worried about you, man. I was like, man, where'd the guy go? I'm like, what happened to this guy?
No, man, I've just been doing research. I don't want to say anything that's false to people. At the end of the day, man, I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of digging. I feel pretty confident in what I understand now, um, on a lot of pieces. I'm still putting a lot together, but
Okay, and one last thing. I know you mentioned jinn, and I've been thinking about what it is.
Yeah.
Um, okay, this is only from Quran. Okay, so it's like you have two um, two oceans. You know, when we says oceans, you mean two waves. Okay, we are all waves. So people, humans are on this side of the wave, okay? And then you have a door that we cross and you go on the other side. The other side, when we die, we become jinn, okay? We are on the other wave spectrum, right?
Mhm.
Both humans and jinns, even after death, can continue to educate themselves and get further.
Awesome.
Okay, so the jinns are basically humans who have passed away, but now they're on the other spectrum. And as long as they haven't committed some heinous crimes that constitute them to go into quarantine, they have still chance to continue to learn, but from human beings. So
So,
they learn.
whoa. So wait. It's almost like when you die, if you commit a heinous crime, you go through a quarantine. It's almost like a cleansing or
No,
something.
no, you're at that time you're quarantined. Like you've cut off from any kind of resource at that time. Heinous crimes mean like if you murdered somebody, um, if you have, if you have made partners with God, if you have like heinous crimes, like if you have taken orphans' money, like these are the things that will literally put you in quarantine. Like there is no way out of those things.
Interesting.
Other people are in this realm of the other side of the death, that they can continue to get knowledge from the living. That's why you're piled on. When you go to hell, you're piled on to each other. So the people in hell are piled on to the bad people. Like they live in delusion.
Do you think there's a possibility that the world in which we live in, because we're not where we need to be and there's a lack of knowledge, we're in hell now? At least people without the
Hell is,
knowledge.
hell is a state of ignorance.
Yeah,
A state of
exactly.
ignorance. So you live in hell now and you continue to live in hell. But the people who are, for example, some people who are just going to work, right?
Yeah.
They don't really know the real meaning of life. They're just doing good things. They're just living their life, right? But they
Hmm.
really don't know what the hell are they doing here. They will, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're not bad people. They're not good people. These people will continue to learn even after death, right?
Right. Right.
Uh, they will realize that they were in hell, and they would continue to then I guess their eyes would open a little bit more, right?
Hmm.
Um,
No, it makes sense, man. At the end of the day, it makes.
so the imagery of hell in Quran is like nar. Nar means a little bit of light. People who live in a little bit of light, little bit of information, not like a daylight, at nightlight, they're always, whatever they find, like imagine you're in a dark place with the flashlight and
Hmm.
you're finding your way. Then the
That's
person who is in the daylight.
that,
So the people
that
who are in hell are the
that's
ones with the
that's
flashlight.
what I always that's what I all was always amazed by with Muslims, as it is. They're very disciplined, and they read their scriptures. They read like you've taken it much further than the normal Muslim. We've already had talks and everything where you guys, basically Khalid and I, we've been studying stuff for 10 years apiece on opposite sides. Me as a Christian, him as a Muslim, and we have come to the same conclusions within the past probably year and a half on a lot of things. As it's absolutely mind blowing. It really is. It wouldn't surprise me, man, if I fought alongside you in some war back in history. I don't friggin' know, dude. Maybe like like a holy war or something. I don't know. Whatever the case may
So,
be.
what happens? What happens? You're responsible to take your generations with you to heaven, and heaven means in the unity with God. Okay, so the people who have passed before you, they're depending on you to get you to that place, to that illumination, right? Right. So when you go to heaven, you don't go to heaven by yourself. You take bunch of dead people with you, mean jinns with you.
Wow.
So for
Wow.
example, sometime when you get this intuition that like sometime you'll get idea in your head that look at this book. Who tells you that look at this book? It's one of those ancestors that are riding your waves that will point you to certain things.
So many times, and like I don't quite know the information or the understand, but I know like something intuitively is telling me that there's something here, and I need to look into it, and I need to piece it together. And it's like, for instance, all right, like Yahweh, all right. A couple of years ago, I stumbled upon Yahweh, who is the Jewish deity. He is the devil, all right. In my understanding of things, he is the devil, the Old Testament God. That deity is the devil. Now, 2 to 3 years ago, it was probably about 2.5 years ago, there was someone that contacted me from TikTok, and they said, "How do you know this is correct, what you're learning?" And they started asking me a bunch of questions on different things. I said, "I don't know the answers yet, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to tell you this much. I feel something within my being that this is the case. That's exactly the way I feel about this information now." In other words, I don't know it all yet, but I'm going to figure it out with the leading of the Spirit, with the leading of those who guide me. In other words, I know there's something here to this. I know there's something with this chronology. I know there's something to the medieval ages with the Sephardic Jews. It all started when I started reading the Zohar. I have the 23 volumes of the Zohar. I was like, something's going on here. Why are they so important here in the medieval ages with this medieval Judaism? And then when Golam, who is the lady that I said she stumbled upon Spain and Italy and all these other areas, I started connecting the dots. Once she said that, I was like, there's a connection between the Hebrews, between the Sephardi, between the Zohar, the Talmud, the Cathars, the original Muslims. All of this comes together somewhere in the 10th, 11th, 12th century. And lo and behold, that's where I found a man that actually was, he lived for 33 and a half years. According to the chronologists and everything, they said he could walk through walls, he performed miracles. There's a bunch of stuff that he did as it is. And I think I really stumbled upon something now. I just got to figure out how to bring it out to the masses in a digestible format, because I can overload people with a lot of stuff. I got
I'm going
like
to show you something. So when I went to I went to the Washington Cathedral, right? So this is the weight, the Washington Cathedral, right?
yeah,
Where
yeah.
where the U.S. presidents take all the, that's where pretty much all the people when they die they end up here. So it's a beautiful building, it's holy and everything, but man, like as soon as you enter into the gates, you see this scene of ecstasy, like orgy. You see that? I'm like, what the hell is this? So like they throw this shit. I'm like, what? If you, I don't know if you should look at this picture. It's literally men and women having like sex and having ecstasy.
It looks like the days of Noah. In other words, like so. Another fascinating thing that I've come across, the Book of Revelation. If you read the Book of Revelation, it has everything to do with astronomy and astrology. I'll explain why. There's four horsemen in there. The four horsemen, there's one with a horse, there's a horse and a man riding it with a bow. This is Sagittarius. This is Jupiter in the horoscope of Sagittarius, the king planet. All right. Then you have a red horse with a sword. This is talking about Mars in Perseus. Perseus is known as the warrior with the sword, the only constellation with the sword. Then you have the third one, which is Libra. This is Mercury in Libra. Libra is the scales, the balance, in other words. The final fourth horse is Death. It has a sickle in its hand. This is Death in Saturn, or Scorpio in, or Saturn in Scorpio. This is Death. So you have these astrological signs. Now, what's interesting about this is that 8 chapters after this, you have this. John says he looks up in the sky and he says he sees a woman clothed with the sun, moon at her feet, stars above her head. This is an astrological sign. Clearly, what is going on here? Even the lamb around the throne with the 7 eyes. This is the Pleiades and the Cassiopeia constellation that looks like it's crucified in the constellation. Now, what's fascinating about all this? There's only one day out of all of history that Jupiter was in Sagittarius, Mercury or Mars was in Perseus or Pegasus. Mercury was in Libra. Saturn was in Scorpio. The sun, moon, and the stars were in Virgo. And this was October 1st, 1486. And what's fascinating is, according to the Byzantine Empire and their understanding of history, they believed in 7,000 years before the end of mankind. They believed that they were living on the brink of the end of mankind, 7 years away from it when the book of Revelation was written. October 1st, 1486, that is when the book was written, according to the horoscopes, the planetary alignments, the astrology, and all this going on. But what's fascinating is, if you fast forward 7 years, in 1493 AD, 1492 or 93 AD, Christopher Columbus, a Sephardi Jew, travels across the oceans and discovers the New World. All right? So I find that to be interesting, because what we have here is the discovery of this new world. What I believe is that the story of Noah, the 11 chapters of the book of Genesis with the Tower of Babel and all this stuff, these things were written in that time frame when the book of Revelation was written as well. But by the way, I think that Revelation was written alongside Genesis through Exodus and all these other books, because if you look at the language that's being used, it's very fascinating. It's about celestial alignments. But what ends up happening is, 7 years later, Christopher Columbus sails across the open sea, and he actually discovers the New World. Now, within this, what we get is, we get the New Atlantis. America is known as the New Atlantis. Sir Francis Bacon, who wrote a book called The New Atlantis, said America was the New Atlantis. There's a reason for second century. No, not second century, Patrina. It was 1492 or 93 AD with Christopher Columbus. But what we have is, we start to get these connections. Even America, American or American, can or Khan means king. Amera comes from Amaru. It's talking about the Serpent Kings. America is named after the Serpent Kings, or the tale of Quetzalcoatl.
Check this
And
out. Check this out, what you're saying.
Bunch of crazy stuff.
So here you have, this is called Abraham, the monument of Abraham in Washington, Abraham Lincoln. They call it a temple. And right here you have this Babylonian Ishtar right here. It's literally in the Washington, the Lincoln Memorial. It's called the temple. So if you look at the walls of Lincoln Memorial, you'll find these pictures. This is Ishtar right here. So when you're talking about Sephardic Jews and the Columbus and whatnot, bro, these people still worship Ishtar. And Ishtar is the wife of Yahweh. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find her in Abraham. Out of all the president, who was the most pious one, which is Abraham Lincoln, in his monument, they put Ishtar right there.
Of course they do. Of course they do. It's all connected. I'm going to show you something. All right. One thing that I find interesting is that Dionysius Petavius, who was the chronologist within our time, well, not our time frame, but the guy who we go off of based off of our chronology. There were two more guys before him that were chronologists. Guess what their names were? Dionysius. All right. Lo and behold, look at that. So either there's a repeat of history or they're copycatting things and making it look like it's happening. I showed this earlier, but he was involved with something called the Easter cycles, and the calendar of the Easter cycles was something that the other Dionysius was involved with as well. This guy right here said that he said, no, it's not. America is not named after uh, basically the Serpent Kings. It's named after a Spaniard. Well, I just want you to think about this, okay? Does it make it all that much better? What if it was both things? Because who was it? Was it Frappuccini? It was some guy. I forget the name. I know what you're talking about, the Spaniard. All right, and that doesn't make it all that much better because that's a Sephardic Jew right there. Okay, that should go to show you that nothing is as it seems. All right.
Why, okay, what's the, I know Sephardic Jews were the thing, but why you think they became so prominent? Like how they infiltrated the church?
Talmud, Zohar. Okay, let me explain this. So, what happened was they converted and they became Catholics, but behind closed doors they were cryptos. Okay, and what ended up happening, as it is, um, they practiced their Talmud and their Zohar behind the closed door. Now, remember how I said Alhambra actually has the roots and actually a switch up of the name of Abraham. Okay, the Alhambra decree is what was declared for the conversion to Roman Catholicism or die, which is named after Abraham. Okay, now according to Jewish legend, what they end up saying is this: CSMC, you're late to the party. All right, we started talking about these things about an hour and a half ago, about the Spaniards, about what's going on here. You're late to the party. The Jews are not Jews like you think. All right. So what happens is they actually say, and I read it, I've read it. It's called the Sefer Yetzirah. All right. The Sefer Yetzirah, okay. The Sefer Yetzirah was actually a Kabbalistic work that they said was written and came from Abraham. That's fascinating. Because if Abraham came from Spain and he was an Iberian, this would make all the much more sense that what they did was they tried to make it look like he was a figure that existed way back in time, but they were actually declaring their heroes and their figures of the Kabbalistic Zoharic age, that golden age of the Jews. And there was a man, his name was Ibn Ezra Abraham, or Abraham ibn Ezra, and he was a prominent man within the Talmudic and Kabbalistic and Zoharic community of the Sepharad Jews. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tie all these links together to actually put something together here as it is. I'm still in the works of it. I'm still putting things together. I started a series on YouTube, as people already know, but I had to take a break from that because I got to regather my thoughts on some stuff as well.
What you said is very interesting. So you're saying Ibr, which is, oh my God. You know, the funny thing is, in Arabic they changed the name to Ibrani with a Ain. not with the A, with the Ain, with the Ain sound. And I don't know who the hell did it. If you're saying it's Ibr, then actually it matches with the name of Ibrahim.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why they call they call it Ibrani. When we say Ibrani language, the old Abrahamic language, I don't know who changed it from A to Ain.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I gotta figure out.
No, that's another interesting thing at the end of the day. So we gotta there's a lot of connections that we have to put together. Yeah, yeah. Like Will said in Angola, Abram is the real father. All right, it means the Iberian. Yeah, and if it's Iberian in Abraham or Ibrahim, actually was by the terebinth trees. The terebinth tree is, lo and behold, grown at the Mediterranean coast in Iberia. All right. So something is going on here. Um, but Golanf, I would like you to come up here. I would like to talk to you as it is. I want to talk to you about a couple of things. And I want to get your take on it because you've definitely sparked a fire within me on a lot of this stuff to bring a new revolution of thinking.
Hey,
You,
brother, I gotta go, but it was really nice talking to you. I have to tell you one thing though. You know,
yep.
Alhambra from 7th century, 8th, 9th, 10th. One of the great things about, at least from Muslim point of view, is that they documented a lot of things. So the documentation is definitely there. Like, we know what happened in 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, 10th century.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want help with that, I can actually pull Arabic resources because there's a lot of those books are still in Arabic and I can translate them for you,
That
especially
would,
if there's something in the time of Andalusia or, because there's a lot of advancement happened. Most Muslim scholars, and I'm not
yeah.
talking about religious scholars, I'm talking about from the poet, language, science. A lot of them came in that time frame. So it was called the Golden Age. So we have a lot of documentation.
It
Um,
was called the Golden Age. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy because I would love to get some information on this because I'm telling you this much: there ain't that much out there
I'm
for.
heading out there. I'm heading out there in July, man, for 2 weeks. I love that area.
Dude,
So
that's awesome, man. I need to get out there sometime. I really do, just to explore it. I've never. I'm gonna tell you something, man.
take a direct flight. Hey, take a direct flight to Malaga. So if you live in Chicago or
I
LA or
Virginia. I'm in Virginia.
Virginia, well, Washington D.C. maybe have a direct flight to Malaga, Spain.
Valaga, Spain. Okay, I will keep that in mind. I'm gonna look at that Bible as well that you showed me, the Gospels, the Charles of Aniel Gospels. So I'm gonna have to look at that, my friend. So bless you, man. Well, guys, I pray that this was a blessing tonight, as it is. Um, Esme, you're more than welcome to come up here and talk. I mean, if if you think I'm wrong, I'd like to hear you out to see how I am wrong on this. Um, oh man, really, Sandra, that's awesome to hear. Bless you. Yeah, Dwayne, it's some crazy stuff. I will send you those planetary alignments and the placements according to, yes, according to what happened. Yes, this is the problem, Esme. You're repeating common knowledge, all right? Common knowledge, things I've already known for the past 10 years, All right. We're trying to take a different approach to this. Okay. That's what we're doing. All right. Yeah, it was Jupiter in Sagittarius and Mars in Pegasus, I think it was. Mars in Pegasus, Mercury in Libra, and Saturn in Scorpio. I've watched some videos that talk about how Lincoln comes from the Middle East. Interesting. I've never heard that. Yeah, a lot of history has been moved. A lot of history has been copycatted. A lot of things have happened. I'm in the process of aligning this. Golam Vwaya, um, hopefully she's in here still. I think Will is. Malaga. I'm going to have to remember that. Malaga. Does Yahweh meet Jesus in the desert, bro, to tempt him? I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, that's Yahweh meeting Jesus in the desert. That's where Yahweh met Moses and the Israelites in the desert. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right, Ashley. Saturn is the Time Lord. Yeah, so according to the astrological alignment that ended up occurring, according to the book of Revelation, all of these things occurred with this alignment October 1st, 1486. What's fascinating is that the horoscopes that were actually used in the writings, they're actually medieval in origin. Wilderness equals desert, not sand, but forest. Yeah, so he drives him out there, then angels meet him later. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what ends up happening. Oh man. Glenn Mason, you searching for knowing so you'll have peace. I enjoy all your knowledge. Um, I search things out not just to know it, but to help people and put things in a better perspective. There has been multiple times, and you can ask anyone that's been following me for a while. I've always said that I'm going to write books and stuff. I can never write a damn book because I always come to some new type of information. I got about 50 to 60,000 pages, or 50 to 60,000 words into 50 to 60,000 pages, 50 to 60,000 words into a book I was writing on the Melchizedek order. And I can't write it because my thought pattern has changed on things. So it's always changing. All right. Rome worships Saturn. Christmas is Saturnalius. They are waiting for his return. Saturn, the devil, Father Time, Jupiter, Jupiter, father of the Jews. If Anatoly Fomenko was correct, would that put Jesus in the 11th century? Yes. Yeah, it would put Jesus around 11th, 12th century. Yes, that is right. Thank you for that, Ashley. Chronos, exactly, Tom. Must always be growing in spirit wisdom. Absolutely, brother. That's why I don't think I can do a book. I can write a book. Yep. There you go, Melanie. Melanie, you've been with me here for a while too. Your understanding and knowledge is awesome as well as it is. So it's just Yeah, you're talking about the Order of Melchizedek. Well, the problem is with the Order of Melchizedek, Zadok actually means righteousness, which actually is a word for Jupiter. All right. Jupiter is actually talking about the king. My king is Jupiter. Jupiter is Jove. Jove is the Roman god um, that was the storm god, just like Yahweh is the storm god for the Jews. So there's a bunch of stuff to this. We can correlate all the gods, we can synchronize all of them. At the end of the day, this is the way I look at it. They created a bunch of fake history, a bunch of false narratives in order to make you believe a completely different picture and idea. Long time. Hi, Josh. What's the picture? Oh, this right here, this is just basically a Greek picture of the battle of the gods. This is also showing that the 12 apostles or 12 disciples is actually a representation of astrotheology. They go back to the pantheon of the different civilizations of these deities. What ended up happening around 1900s, um, there were a lot of people that were Christians and they became atheists because scientists started stumbling upon new discoveries of Sumerian civilization, Egypt, and different places. And what ended up happening with this is people started becoming atheists because they believed that Egypt, Sumeria, different things were um, actually created before the teachings of Jesus, but they were not. And what it did was it created a fake civilization. I just want you guys to think about this. If they can fake Zionism and they can fake the return to the homeland, they can fake the location as well. Right? The Sumerian civilization was about 3000 BCE. Yeah, you're talking about Enki and you're talking about the Akifu priest, all those things. All right. I've studied the archaeology doesn't work out on its behalf. Things can only be dated so far back. Radiocarbon dating is based off of C14 levels, such as in the sea. There's going to be a higher level of radiation, so it's going to date things to be older than what they actually. Take a mummy that was found in Egypt with a wrapping around it. This mummy that was found was dated to be going back to 3300 AD. Okay. This would mean right here that can you guys hear me now? No? Good? Can you guys hear me now? Okay, cool. I'm only going to be on here a couple more minutes, you guys. I'm going to have to. Um, basically, Okay, that's interesting. I don't know what the heck's going on with the trust nothing. Um, do the research, look at things. There's one thing that has never changed for me, and that's my faith in Jesus. Okay, that there is a greater purpose to this world. I could never become an atheist at the end of the day. Um, the only thing that's ever remained true for me is Jesus. That's it. Everything else just. So, anyways, absolutely will. We definitely will, my friend. Never say never. Well, Petrina, to for that to happen for me. I mean, my dad is a wreck, and he still has his faith. Um, they are talk blocking your info. Yeah, right. Be it, because I don't know. I have. Yeah, the love and the message remains the same at the end of the day. So, Petrina, flamenco. All right. Every path is definitely different. Absolutely, Bab. Never lose. There's a higher power. Absolutely. There too much that's going on, too much that has happened, too much in history that has been covered up. They've done all this for a purpose and a reason. So, um, okay. Anyways, I am going. Am I breaking up? I'm breaking up. Okay. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. I got to take care of a couple of things, but I pray that this was a blessing, that this helped you guys. I would like to say that if you want more content, more understanding on this, go to my YouTube on Sons of God Ministries. And if you guys want to be a part of the Patreon channel, go to Patreon for Sons of God Ministries. We actually are going to have a live Patreon session tomorrow. This will be number 23. By the way, if you join, you will have access to all 23 live Patreon sessions. That's over 60 hours worth of content as it is. Really good stuff at the end of the day. All right, guys. Well, bless you. You have yourself a lovely evening, and I will talk to you soon. I will be making more videos on this. It's a lot. It's hard to make the 2 to 3 minute videos with all this information, all this understanding, but it has to be done. I'm gonna go ahead and go grab a coffee, sit down, and do some reading. I need to look at some stuff because I just love you. You have yourself a great night. Have a good evening, and I'll talk to you soon.